into the first semi-finals of the day between Nebulae now on the blue side and J3X Inferno on the red side. We saw yesterday a lot of Lance emphasis and emphasis on Grace as well. But the first ban coming out from the side of Nebulae will be that of Glaive, a very flexible hero, and on top of that you can't really run in utility, although we haven't quite been seeing Glaive being on the utility role, but instead the weapon carry, and he can just deal so much damage. And on top of that as well, the early game ganks that Glaive can put out. However, on the side of J3X Inferno, in contradiction to their name, they will be banning out the King of Infernos, and that will be Scarf.
Yeah, so both two very viable meta bans for the first ban slots. Look at what the possible first picks be. Are they going to go with what we saw a lot of yesterday? Really focus on picking up those roam and those captain heroes first off, such as Lance and even Grace we saw a lot of. Or are they going to go for the more carry kind of role with the Idris pickup we saw quite a bit of yesterday? And it will be that Lance lock-in for the blue side.
Well, I mean, Lance at this point in time in the current meta, very strong, provides a lot of utility and very good wall as well, just to soak up damage because of the passive of Githyan Wall. 40% damage reduction, if I remember correctly, is quite immense in team fights, even if you're up against heavy hitters like that of Idris and even, mages of sorts. And we will be seeing an Idris coming up for the side of J3X Inferno.
Yep, so there is that Idris pickup once again, so these both being very expected, and then it just leaves him with what are they going to go for the bans. We're going to see the second bans with Black Feather being the first one, and are they going to follow through with, I would say, either a ban onto a roamer, a captain. I mean, they've already got their own captain in their hands, so they don't need to worry about that now. Or we could see maybe even, I'm not sure, maybe a Taka or a Celeste ban could come through.
Yeah, but we saw a lot as well that not Vainglory, but that Black Feather being banned out across the board of the entirety of yesterday. So I'm not quite surprised of that ban. But with the Black Feather ban, maybe they want to pick up a Celeste for themselves. But enough of them. But we do see a Catherine being banned out by the side of Nebulae. Catherine, not a lot of emphasis we saw from yesterday whatsoever. Granted, she has got a lot of utility in her kit in terms of the Merciless Pursuit and the 3-man silence that can happen once Catherine gets a level 6 and gets a Blast Tremor. However, from the side of J3X Inferno, we will be seeing that Lyra being taken away for the side of Nebulae. Lyra very strong with an early game sustain, and the poke that she provides in the early game is decent as well. But a rather interesting pickup coming out from the side of Nebulae, and that would be the Vox being secured in for themselves.
So that Vox pickup there go very well into having a balanced team overall, and I think that it's now up to what the side of, I believe it's, we've got Inferno on the red team and Nebulae on the blue.
Yep, we do have Inferno on that red side and Nebulae on the blue side, and we will be seeing a Celeste, probably a jungle Celeste coming up from the side of Nebulae. And in return, because of the Black Feather being banned out, they are quite restricted in terms of how to counter that of Celeste. They can go for the Taka, try to burst that Celeste down, or, honestly, in the early game, before Celeste gets her items, gets her level 8, she is quite vulnerable, and Celeste work very well. But of course, they themselves, they can pick up a Scarf, in which they have already banned out. So Baptiste might work fine here. If not, then even a Koshka, just for the early game pressure that he can put down in that early game. However, we will be seeing not an assassin, but a bruiser coming out for the side of J3X Inferno, and they will lock in the Rona for themselves.
Now, that is something exciting to see, the Rona pickup, but how will it go up against the enemy team. I mean, Rona has to really try their best to get past Lance, who's going to be more than likely peeling for Celeste on that backline. And for Rona to catch out of Vox is also quite difficult to do. So I'm not too sure about this Rona pickup, but how are you feeling about it?
Honestly, if you don't ask me, I mean, Rona has got into the fray, can stay in the midst of all three members to fight it out. But the issue with picking a Rona into a team comp like that, which has double range, would mean that, like you say, have to get through and get past that Lance. She can use into the fray, but will she be able to just catch up Vox and Celeste is another issue altogether. Because Rona needs to hit into the fray into all three members of the team before she gets a fortified health or extra fortified health gain, and that will allow her to just sustain in the fights for a longer period of time. But with Rona getting on top of two range heroes, he must be a really good Rona. If not, then I don't quite seeing it happening altogether. But however, we will not just discount J3X Inferno on their skill play and abilities to just execute the team comp. But all in all, maybe the side of J3X Inferno wants to force a fight onto themselves, and with Into the Fray, just dive onto Sajin, remove Sajin immediately, and of course, then go on to trophies on that of Vox.
Yeah, and we'll have to see as the team do load on Fold now, and let us know in the chat, as always, which team you are hyped for, which team you're cheering for, and all that good stuff, because we are in the semifinals of Week 3, our first match of the day, kicking it off with the Nebulae going up against J3X Inferno. So it should be a good match to watch. And just continuing off your point there, I personally think I can see how Nebulae's team, and I mentioned it as soon as they had picked it up, that is just really balanced, and that it's a good late game team comp if they can get there.
Yeah, but it'll be... I think they kind of pretty much break the chain there. Had they actually just picked up an Arden, then it'll be a family comp. It'll be way easier for the caster. But now all three members, or two members of J3X Inferno will be trying to vie for this Elder Tree. Sergeant will be thinking twice and will just back off.
Yeah, and it looks like they are going to back away from that mid-triam, but still hasn't been taken by either team, funnily enough, and it looks like that Inferno just going to make their way up to the lane as Truffy's was already there from the start. Ooh, great use of the minion candy, able to get all of the minions up in lane on the side of Nebulae. And hopefully they can use this to add some extra aggression as they push in. And this is really good use of that minion candy, as we see Amox Blaze going very low to Truppies and Doubtfire up in this lane. And this is how you want to be using minion candy. You don't just want to be popping in, leaving lane. You want to continue to try and put pressure down up in lane and really get the most out of it in the early game. The only problem here is that we do see Amox Blaze up in the lane on that Lyra. We'll have the Imperial Sigil up in to heal up Nibinbin, but it's not available right now as they almost got caught out with that Impale. Good to see Doubtfire landing those Impales as well. And meanwhile, Saijin did get caught out by Kahlua in the jungle for a bit, but it doesn't look like either of them really looking for a fight here. Maybe Kahlua on this Rona wants to play a bit more aggressive though.
Yep, but 2 minutes in, just 17 CS across, Nibinbin as well, sitting very similar to that CS count. And you'd think that with that minion candy, granted, you can put a lot of aggression into that of lane, and if the Roma tries their best to just hold lane for their laners, and it will hurt them a lot. But Trophies, we have to understand one thing, is that with that minion candy, it will be very difficult for Vox to farm up, because the minions do extra out into the lane.
Oh, Kahlua looking to jump onto the backline, trying to... But the Giphy is going to stun them up, and they're going to have to back off from this fight. Trophies will have that potion up in another 3 seconds, so they should be fine, and it looks like J3X Inferno just going to back away from this fight. And now, I wouldn't be surprised if after clearing this next wave, Trophies does the same, but they're actually holding on to that potion there. They haven't used it, they're waiting in case they get jumped on again. A very smart move. And we see Doubtfire not actually with a Protector's contract, so he's just got the normal, I believe it's the Iron Guard contract?
Yeah, it is the Iron Guard contract that Doubtfire has on hand, but Kahlua now on to Doubtfire.
Yes, and we'll see it's just a bit of chip damage. They're not afraid to continue. There's the standing in it. They're going to use it way with the attack speed. It would have been a lot more useful if that was right on top of Kahlua as they were fighting, but you can see how Rona, when jumping into this team of Nebulae, actually has quite a lot of problems to deal with the CC coming out from the side of Nebulae, having the Impale as well as the Giphian Wall to just push Rona away, and then there's obviously the more, I guess, important one of the core collapse that comes out from that Celeste, really trapping Rona down, because Rona isn't very fast moving, especially when you're using that red mist to actually slow down a lot more. So Rona has to rely on using that into the fray to be a part of the mobility of that kit, and then as well as having that be there to really just be able to jump onto target. So this is why I thought it is going to be quite tough for the Rona pickup, and I'm not too sure how they're going to make it work. But you could see in situations like earlier when Kahlua had actually ran up to lane and used into the fray to get behind Trophies, it almost worked out for them. But right now you can see just the CC and the peel coming out from the side of Nebulae, especially that of Delphi, landing those impales is very crucial, and it's helping them win out more or less from these team fights.
Yep, but honestly, Nebulae really wants to just poke down that, Rona before actually want to go in for the team fight. Only reason is because Rona has got Immortal Wound, and if Rona gets enough tank items, can just go into the backline, try the best to just burst Sergeant down, and even if Delphi and that Lance do pop that fountain, just try to keep that of Celeste alive. It will be largely quite a difficult job all in all, only because of the mortal wound that Rona can inflict. And that is something maybe Nebulae has to think about, but in this early game, definitely the poke or the damage wise will definitely go in favor of Nebulae with Celeste and the Supernovas and Heliogenesis that she can put out. And the amount of CCs, I agree with you, the side of Nebulae definitely have got a surmountable amount of CCs with the core collapse and the impales and Githin Wall as well when Delphi do actually land them.
Oh, and look at this decent sized minion wave being. They're not able to find the damage onto the turret that they will. So good job from Inferno to keep them at bay, and you saw Sajin actually taking a fair bit of damage from the CP charge.
On the engage long enough, then you allow Sajin to just put out so much damage with those Heliogenesis and the stars that's just dropping down from the skies, and that is just not good at all for the side of J3X Inferno. So they may have to rethink their, fight strategies coming to this. Maybe have Rona just sneaky behind in the back lines, and from there maybe just try their best to put out as much damage as possible. But now Kahlua maybe finding
going to jump over the wall onto Truppy again, but Night Bimbam, however, throwing out that CP Chakram, doing a fair bit of damage, and there's a coming, goes right through the middle of them. However, Armox plays properly would have been taken down by that one. Luckily for them, it missed, and there's an Imperial Sigil to keep Night Bimbam alive, but Kahlua going to jump into the back line. He uses the reflex block to block out that core collapse and manages to get out of there alive. But right now, Nebulae putting down the pressure and doing a fair good job at keeping themselves alive, and surprisingly doing well at sustaining their own health when the enemy team should be the one doing that with the Lyra effect and the Serpent's Mask over on Rona, but they're just able to put out so much damage at this point, and it's just working out really well for the side of Nebulae. But they need to be careful as Kahlua jumps onto Trophies. Great peel coming out from Delphi as he Giphian Walls Trophies into that Giphian Walls Kahlua into that turret, and Delphi trying to impale over that wall, but it's not going to happen. Trophies now needs to be careful. He's very low on energy as well, and he's playing a risky game. He might be going for it, although he's able to get Kahlua. He's going to be able to get Armox if he has one more dash, but looks like it wasn't up in time, and he's going to continue to stay around here pushing this turret as Delphi has used the fountain. There's the Solar Storm, but it misses, and yeah, they're going to have to back out. They got quite a lot out of that for being in a 2v3 situation, and it just shows you that Sajin, meanwhile, could be in the jungle farming and still have the presence there of that Solar Storm. However, in this case, it did miss, but we saw before just the damage that it can do in that previous ace.
Yep, and Kahlua on this Rona, generally Rona is a very, very late game hero, and you want to get the Cerberus Mask into that breaking point before you do respectable damage, and then you can stay in the team fight for a very long time. But like I said earlier on, in order for you to actually stay in team fight for a very long time, you really need to land those into the fray onto all three members before you can put out respectable damage and tank up as well.
Kahlua getting into the wall there, and then Thijin get caught on, but there's a wait for it. It's going to silence out Armox and Kahlua for just a second as they chase down Night Bim Bim from Nebulae, and they're going to catch out Kahlua here, but it looks like Kahlua will be safe, just barely, though. Kahlua really needs to back out of the fight here. I don't think sticking around for the Imperial Sigil will be quite enough at this point. You could see it really didn't heal much of that damage, but his heal just got put right back on top of Kahlua, and they're going to try and make it out there, but Solar Storm going to land them on them. Meanwhile, Night Bim Bim actually picking up a kill on Truffles, who is left alone, and now Night Bim Bim looking for something more, but he's going to get taken out by Saiyajin on this Celeste. And you can just see that even if Truffles isn't alive, Saiyajin still has massive amount of damage to put out at 11 minutes 30, and just doing great work with that Frostbone and Broken Myth. It's already so much, and it looks like they're building towards the Clockwork next.
Yep, and the Clockwork will be the next most logical choice, just to put out so much more heliogenesis, and on top of that as well, the amount of damage that Clockwork provides, the crystal amplification at least, is just immense for a Celeste or any mage that can just lay down a lot of skills in a very, very short amount of time. Kahlua now not looking very, very good on that Rona. I think a crew would have made so much more sense as compared to a Rona, because Rona really you work in very sustained DOT like damage, but now they are preparing for a siege.
Yeah, we do see Kahlua just focusing down on fight. They can take an objective with them right now. Ooh, it looks like a Night Bim Bim just going to be able to get out of there by using the Shimmer Strike, and but now has to be careful. They are going to get caught up between Doubtfire and Saiyajin if they're not careful. The CP Chakram going out doing massive damage, but here comes the Crystal Sentry, and it's going to be able to get the kill, saving Saiyajin and Doubtfire's life. Meanwhile, Truffles, I believe, chasing Amok's Blaze into their own jungle, and right now, I guess, if a side of Nebulae do have the option of going for that gold mine, it is already full, but they might be looking to just take some more farm and possibly win out another team fight. And this is the thing, you see Truffles and Doubtfire, just the two of them in the jungle for now, and I think they have the confidence there, and you could just see how well Doubtfire has been playing on this lance so far, landing the Impales, landing the Giphian walls, and just doing a great job to help out his carries and really let his carries be as, I guess, aggressive as they are at this point in the game.
Yeah, but even with that, very good vision control coming out from that of J3X Inferno, but all in all, it's just not utilized well whatsoever. We see scout traps across the map, or rather in the shop brushes, the item shop brushes, but the son of J3X Inferno just finding it so difficult to capitalize on the vision they are getting. Oh, Kahlua and a Moose Blaze getting caught up by those heliogenesis.
Oh, Doubtfire gonna go in with the Impale and the Giphian wall. Alpha collapse, however, into the fray to actually get out of the fray. But right now, Nebulae going to be able to pick up that Crystal Sentry for themselves. They could even start to put down a bit more focus onto that, a bit more aggression, just so they have that much more roaming potential for their whole team, as it looks like right now they're really able to just go into the enemy jungle and take what they want for the most part. So I won't be surprised, but we will see Kraken on the board in another 30 seconds. And if Nebulae are looking for a team fight, they could do it now and then possibly turn their attention to the Kraken. And it looks like that's what they're going to do. They're at least pushing this wave up, and they want to get something out of it. I'm sure Doubtfire is not going to go back to base at this point. And great Giphian wall into the core collapse, and they're going to be able to take down Kahlua instantly. Now Truffy's focusing onto Armox Blaze, just using it for those stacks. Now seeing a 12 breaking point stacks coming around the back to find Night Bim Bim all alone in the jungle, but he's not alone because Nebulae, Doubtfire, and Saiyajin are there on the side of Nebulae to crush him And yeah, it's just right now 10-1 for Nebulae is looking just great.
Yep, very easy anchor turret for Nebulae as well. Just leaving a Moose Blaze on that Lyra to just protect and hold that turret, but not for long now, as Nebulae will turn their attention onto this Kraken and possibly just end out this game and this onslaught onto that of J3X Inferno.
Yep, and it looks like they should be, they are accurate without test. Inferno a bit late to the party in this situation, but feeling that it's better to stick together as a team. They might even be able to do something if they catch out Truffy's here, who's on the backline. Fountain is used, and Solar Storm comes in to push away the rest of Inferno, but Nibimba not going to give up, trying to look for something. Goes in with the Shimmer Strike onto Dalfa, now having to run back to the Imperial Sigil to heal up. I don't think they have what it takes to take down Truffy's. He has 16 stacks on that breaking point. Meanwhile, Saiyajin going onto the backline, able to finish out the ace. They're going to push onto these two turrets remaining with the Kraken, taking them out within seconds. They don't even need the Kraken here at this point. It's just for show as they take down the Vein Crystal of the first match. GG, well played to Nebulae, 13-1 and 39.6k over to the 30k, almost taking that 10k gold lead just at 16 minutes 40 in.
Yep, almost 10k gold lead. All in all, looks like the debut of a Moose Blaze did not pay off well whatsoever for J3X Inferno. But then again, they are not on their roles. All in all, Kalua is the roamer of the team, and then usually you see Nibim on that of jungler role. And so I guess it's good adaptation. But all in all, just did not pay well whatsoever. But I cannot discount the fact that Nebulae definitely played well and played utterly to their advantage. I think it was just down to drafting. Had Kalua maybe settled for the crew, they could have stood a better chance, because crew can just put a lot of pressure in that of lane before Vox get a point shift for that extra sustain as well.
Yep, and I just think it was really, in my opinion, Rona, a great hero and all, but just not for the situation. It is very hero, and I don't think she's so much in the meta now, is something more off meta, but it can work out at times. So I just think for that Rona pickup, it just wasn't such a good choice.
It wasn't indeed. I personally do not think that Rona was the deal breaker for the side of J3X Inferno. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm still thinking and figuring why this Rona was being picked up. But all in all, I guess Rona will be good if Rona could just apply constant pressure into that of the jungle when Celeste was just farming up. I mean, looking across at previous games' draft, maybe they shouldn't have banned out that Black Feather, picked the Black Feather up for themselves, and I mean, even then, probably the side of the side of Nebulae would just have picked up the Black Feather for themselves. But all in all, I think Rona was really the cause and the downfall of J3X Inferno, just down to draft alone. They have other better heroes to pick out, like that of Castro. Castro could have done rather well in that early game, and going up against Celeste in the early game before level 8, maybe even a Peta would have done much, much better as compared to a Rona.
Yeah, so I really do think for the side of Inferno to come back into the next one lies a little more heavily on the drafting phase, and that's just really where they fell behind overall. But you have to give it to the side of Nebulae for just playing that one really well across the board. Everyone on the team of Nebulae just played their roles like very well, and it just synergized great. And I think this is why Nebulae is also one of those up-and-coming teams that we see being like, they have a lot of potential there. And I think it's, one of those teams that I think have a possibility of really making it finals for this week. Of course, J3X, even in points at the moment with Nebulae, but right now Nebulae looking a lot more structured, to say the least.
Oh, definitely a lot more structured and definitely very strong. But of course, enough speculation, enough talk, because draft is ready. I'm sure the players are ready. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into draft.
So we are here in the draft. Nebulae and J3X Inferno. This time, J3X Inferno being on the blue side and Nebulae on the red. So going into these first bans, as always, I don't know if I even need to say it, but I will anyway. You know, just expecting the usual meta bans here that we'll see focused on either captains or that of even mage heroes such as Celeste or Scarf. And I think after that first match, I wouldn't be surprised if Lancer's either banned out or is going to be one of the first picks.
I mean, for the side of blue, they can easily just opt for that Lance. Lance is a great hero overall. You can run him weapon and provide extra CCs that your team would need or want to need in that of the early into the late game, the mid game at least. But we will be seeing a Lance being banned out almost immediately, coming out for the side of J3X Inferno. In response to that, maybe the side of Nebulae can easily remove that Grace as well. If not, then Lyra that Amus plays him rather comfortable on. I mean, all in all, Amus plays, this is the first time he is playing in the Vainglory 8, so it's a big question mark altogether of what he can roam on, what he cannot captain on, but we will be seeing the safer draft and the safer ban of that of Catherine.
Yep, so Catherine once again being banned out, and for good reason. I mean, these bans, there's such powerful roams, and it leaves them with less options. Then this actually favors the side of J3X Inferno, who are on the blue side, because they have the first pick of which roam they want, and they chose Grace, which we know just another great roamer at the moment. Very aggressive play style, and it's got great CC and being able to just really jump onto your enemies and also peel for your own teammates with the Holy Nova. And you can't forget the heal that comes through, especially after you can get Echo on that heal, and you've just got two big bursts of heal. In comparison, we have Lyra, which, you know, you've got heal more often, but I really don't think it's as impactful unless it's utilized correctly and you're not taking so much damage from the enemy team, because Lyra can easily be overwhelmed in a lot of situations and doesn't have enough healing to go around for the whole team.
Definitely. I mean, Lyra provides very good early game sustain, but all in all, when it comes into the late game, Lyra just falls out as compared to Grace. However, in the early game, as long as Nebulae can just push the Lyra's advantage to the best extent, allowing, you know, just Lyra has got a bright bulwark for the early game ganks, to stop early game ganks, but they will not be afraid of early game ganks with that Glaive being banned out and Lance not in the fold as well. But Idris will be banned out for the side of J3X Inferno in response to Lyra being picked out. And all in all, I don't think Idris really is a threat at this point in time. In the previous game, J3X Inferno was on that Idris. Maybe they do not want Nebulae to just pick up the Idris for themselves. So in this game itself, maybe Trophies will settle for that mage, but this is the first time, or the previous game, first time in a very long while to be seeing Trophies on a weapon carry. However, I'm not surprised if Trophies would just settle for maybe the Black Feather, or that could be a CP Black Feather. So a lot of flexibility in terms of the comp that's coming out from the side of Nebulae.
Yeah, I mean, a bit different to we actually saw in an up way with Glaive being banned out first, but Idris second, but this leaves Scarf open onto the fold, and it will be picked up indeed. A very good pick for them to go with, and I'm sure alongside that, I was actually going to be expecting someone a bit more frontline, but I guess with the Black Feather already picked up, they're going to go for the Vox pick instead, which Vox is a very good late game hero as well. So you can see the synergy that's going to be able to work there. And Grace will probably have to more so just focus on protecting the Scarf, and Vox will be more so on his own, just using his own abilities, his Sonic Zoom, to get out of those situations. And yeah, I think that could really work out well. I like the team comp coming out from J3X Inferno this time a lot more than the previous match. But to finish off Nebulae's team comp, they've gone for the Kestrel pickup. And I guess this, depending on which hero goes CP and which goes weapon power, can work out either way. I would prefer to see a weapon power Kestrel personally, and then a CP Black Feather. They just would have so much burst available to them, and if they're able to jump onto the backline and get past that Grace, they should be able to have a pretty easy game, especially with Lara able to put the Imperial Sigil up in that front line with them as they dive in, at least more so for Black Feather diving in, would really work out well for them. But we'll have to see how it goes as we go into this second match between J3X Inferno and Nebulae. So, Luxuria, as always, which team are you looking for in this second matchup?
For me personally, I would like to see Amos Blaze maybe play a little more aggressive in this particular game, especially on... Oh, I take that back. Kahlua will be on that roam Grace, and Amos Blaze will be coming in for his jungle debut. The previous match was the captain debut for Amos Blaze, and in this match itself, we will be seeing Amos Blaze on that of Scarf. Interesting change up in terms of roster, and according to, and as you say, we will be seeing a weapon Castrol and a CP Black Feather. Works well either ways. Even when if they are going to swap their roles around and have a weapon Black Feather, I think it will do relatively well going up against that of Scarf and of course Fox. And for a CP Castrol as well, because CP Castrol you have a lot of outplay opportunities available for you all in all. But in the early game itself, a weapon Castrol would have a much more easier time going up against that of Fox, especially since you can just easily poke that Fox out of lane with your glimmer shots and your basic attacks. So I'm honestly just looking forward as to how trophies will be like on this weapon Castrol altogether. Weapon Castrol, not exactly a terrible pick, or in fact, in the early game itself, like I said earlier on, you can just poke Fox out in the early game. But what I'm saying, or rather what I'm trying to say, is that whether or not trophies will go for the basic attack weapon Castrol build, or the one where you just rely on your glimmer shots to put out as much damage.
Yeah, so whether they go for a bit more basic attack or burst those glimmer shots will be the question, and we'll have to wait and see. And I think that personally in this situation, if they, depending on who they really want to focus down, I think burst could go quite well for them. And I do agree with you, the weapon power Castrol in this situation being a lot better, but right now it looks like Saiyajin actually making his way into the enemy jungle, trying to steal away some farm, manages to pick up the healing tree and one of the backs, but now is getting focused down by Kahlua as well, who comes in with the Holy Nova, manages to land the knockup, but Saiyajin going to be able to take the first blood away as they take Scarf down before they fall themselves. So a bit of a trade out there, but also a bit of a win for Saiyajin and for the side of Nebulae. And I think more than anything, the weapon power Kestrel just is so much more important into, well, throughout the whole game, laning up against, going to have that resonance damage, and if you're getting hit by that, you're not going to be able to go invisible when the enemy team is diving onto you. And as I said earlier, that Kahlua on this Grace will want to be very aggressive. I mean, it's just the general Grace playstyle that we always see. So going for the CP Kestrel would just be a bit more risky, as you're not able to use the active camo all the time.
Yep, definitely. But we do see Saiyajin once again maybe going on one-on-one with Amos Blaze, but Kahlua will be finding him.
Oh, Saiyajin actually managing to steal that one. And there's going to be enough to get out of there alive. No, I'm not sure if that's worth Saiyajin risking their life over being able to steal that, as they ended up caught in a bit of a 1v3 situation. Of course, Doubtfire did make the rotation down, but wasn't enough. We still see Saiyajin ahead of Amox Blaze on that Scarf at this moment. Saiyajin sitting at 19 farm, and Amox Blaze still back at 13, so good job there. And meanwhile, up in lane, Trophies also slightly ahead, 7 or Naibimbim actually up, and as I mentioned that after clearing this wave, but it looks like Trophy's taking a fair bit of this farm away from Saiyajin as well. So Saiyajin doing a good job to manage to keep up with Amox Blaze even while doing that. I'm not sure, I haven't been watching Naibimbim this match so much. Perhaps you would know if they've been going and doing the same tactics or not?
Nah, Naibimbim has been very religiously just sticking onto lane, and honestly, Amos Blaze on this Moose Blaze on this. His name is so weird to say, but Sajin once again.
Sajin getting caught out in this. Might be able to escape, and it looks like they will. I'm not sure. It's just the rotation coming out from the side of J3X Inferno. They keep going down through that enemy jungle tri-bush and managing to catch out Sajin. There's going to be the bright ball to keep the enemies away for now, but Kahlua going to jump in there with a Holy Nova, manages to knock up Sajin, and Sajin is going to go down to the goop, and Scarf managing to pick up that overall for them, and now looking to push with the man advantage. I think Amox Blaze may stay up in the lane, at least to clear it, and no, they're going to go in completely. There's the Spitfire into the goop. Kahlua going very deep, however, will get punished for it, gets stunned out and killed, and now Doubtfire needs to be careful, taking a fair bit of damage from Amox Blaze there, and Bim alongside Amox Blaze trying to steal that farm. They managed to successfully, so this could be helping Amox Blaze get even with Sajin. Now we see him now making his way to 24 CS, just about right behind Sajin, who's sitting at 30.
Yep, although Sajin had been caught out up to about 3 times in the entirety of the game, but all in all, he is doing relatively well for himself, picking up a Shatter Glass 5 minutes in, not the fastest Shatter Glass I've seen, but all in all, it just pays off well. Moose Blaze still yet to get the tier 3 item, probably will settle for the Frostburn, and there you go. We see a Frostburn being picked up by a Moose Blaze. And at this point in time, with level 6 and the Shatter Glass being picked up, Sajin can definitely put out a lot of pressure in dead of lane against Bim.
Well, we'll see that just here as they dive in from out. Be the in return, and it looks like Amox Blaze has joined the fight on this Scarf, but whether Nebulae are going to back off from this one or not is the question. Amox Blaze still trying to put those Spitfires down, but they don't land quite, and no, Truffy's able to dodge that one out and return a lot of damage with the glare shot. So it looks like both teams just poking back and forth here, and you can see Sajin positioning themselves up in the top rush alongside Doubtfire, game ready to go in, and they go in with the Rose Offensive, but they walk right into the Holy Nova, and they're going to get taken down. We see on the back line Kahlua and Bim very low, but on the front line there is Amox Blaze blazing away against Truffy's and burning them down. A very fitting name for a Scarf player, and this might be the debut we need to see, the jungle Blaze. Maybe this was the Herovania play. Of course, Scarf very meta at the moment, and you know, if you can really push them well into the late game, Scarf becomes this unbeatable powerhouse. So yeah, I mean, a great pickup, and as I said, in the draft phase, to see coming out from J3X Inferno, a lot more favorable than last time and a lot more meta than last time.
Definitely, but there is one thing you must note as well. I was hoping for J3X, or rather the side of Nebulae, to actually pick up a Celeste for themselves, to try their bestest to outpoke the side of J3X Inferno. However, we do not see that coming out. Instead, we see a CP Black Feather, and I guess this is the reason why, because CP Black Feather really wants to go into the back lines to try to take out a Moose Blaze on that little Firecracker Dragon. But they will go on to the turret and successfully siege the first turret of J3X Inferno.
Yep, and it looks like they shall, but in return, they might need J3X Inferno now push in with those Spitfires, doing a lot of damage, and there's really nothing they can do, and there's the return turret coming up from J3X Inferno. So it's not so one-sided as the previous match, and in fact, looking a bit more even, and if anything, in favor of J3X Inferno for a lot of the early games so far. I mean, we look at the farm of the overall gold economy for both teams, and we see that J3X Inferno sitting at 17.3 over to the 16.9 on the side of Nebulae, so very close, and one team fight could really swing that around, especially with Goldmine already being at its full capture rate, and if any team takes this, could really take the lead, especially after game with gold for kill bounties as well that you have to account for. And just looking back at Amox Blaze and Sajin in the jungle, they're both very even. When Amox Blaze actually went to buy that Frostburn, if they had, I believe it's like 90 more gold, they could have bought Shatterglass. Of course, maybe not the right item for a Scarf, but they could have been able to do it, where we saw Sajin with only a Shatterglass and no extra items. And now it looks like they are getting ready to fight. The Arcane Passage was used. There's going to be the Divine Intervention, and Kahlua going so very low. One shot, one kill going to come through onto Bim. Here's going to be the chase coming through by Sajin. He managed to pick up the going to pick up Kahlua, and is he going to go for the chase down onto Amok's Blaze? He might just do it. There's the goop. It looks like Kestrel going to come in from the backline. Trophy's on this Kestrel, very low in energy, however, needs to be careful. But Amok's Blaze going in with the Dragon's Breath, trying to do what they can, but massive damage coming out from the CP Black Feather. But Amok's Blaze is just going to turn around with the goop, the Spitfire catching him out, managing to get the trade out kill. This fight going on a bit longer than Nebulae would have liked to, and it looks like they won't be able to catch out Amok's Blaze in the end. So great job by Amok's Blaze on the Scarf, being able to really just stay alive and even get a kill for himself.
Yeah, but honestly, back to draft itself, I want to really say that the weapon Black Feather and of course that of a CP Casual were a little better as compared to, what they have for themselves right now, because they are kind of struggling, but Saiyajin.
Yep, it looks like Saiyajin going to back out of that fight, and just so much damage coming out from both teams at this point, and it's a very exciting match to watch when it's so close. Of course, I said before, looks like it's slightly in favor of J3X Inferno at this point, but really when you look at the kills, you look at the gold, it's barely any different.
Yep, I mean, all in all, they are looking rather even for both Nebulae and the sort of J3X Inferno. I must say, Amok's Blaze on this Scarf definitely putting out a lot of work, as with those glimmer shots that's coming out from trophies as well.
Yep, and Divine Intervention is used on Nightbim, standing still, and they are open and vulnerable to the attack of Nebulae, but Nebulae not wanting to go in, because I think they're starting to learn the lesson. You dive in onto Kahlua, and Kahlua is going to land those Holy Novas. We've seen it too many times before, and it really helps turn the fire around for the side of J3X, and could be the second Tyrant's Monocle pickup on trophies. This is a big power spike for them if they choose to fight on it, and it looks like they are trying to just get some poke damage down into that enemy brush, but they're not going to really be able to follow up on anything at the moment. They don't know, I'm pretty sure they don't know that Nightbim is actually quite low in energy, and this would be a great time for them to fight, as the rest of Nebulae actually all full of health and full energy at this point.
Yep, I mean, they can definitely go in for a team fight right now. Nightbim is just clearing wave alone in that of the lane, but all in all, they will just back off. They will respect the fact that Amok's Blaze on that Scarf has got a ton of damage under those Dragon's Breath or even Spitfire and good combo. And they will respect that, they will back off, but all in all, like on my point before that, I personally think that a weapon Black Feather would have just done so much better in terms of this team comp and the execution of the team comp, only because weapon Black Feather generally settle for a breaking point, Serpent's Mask, and will tank up, whereas for a CP Black Feather, your Broken Myth, your Shattered Glass is very prioritized over those defense items, and you can't quite stay in team fights for a very long time, as the bulk of the damage will come out from your on point, which will make you very similar to that of trophies on that of weapon Castro, where the bulk of damage will come out from those glimmer shots and not your basic attacks. However, the side of Nebulae may be looking for something right now, just pushing a wave in, 420 blaze it, that damage onto Kahlua on that Grace.
Yeah, and we see Nightbim coming up back line. Dead. Damage for Saiyajin, however, low on defense, only with that light armor, is going to take a lot more from that box, who's diving in there with a Divine Intervention coming up to them. It's a great combination there as he's able to get into the backline and still remain healthy enough, and Kahlua going to jump in, trying to follow through, not able to land the Holy Nova as Saiyajin and Doubtfire are running away, but Spitfire does manage to land onto Doubtfire. And now they're going to have to be careful as the side of J3X Inferno trying to push onto this turret. They only have half a minion. It's not going to be enough, but Kahlua not afraid to jump in there. There's going to be a bright bulwark to stop them from escaping, but they're going to manage to anyway, and now turning their attention to this gold miner. Finally, the gold miner that's been full, and no one's taken it for so long. J3X Inferno finally finding the opportunity to do so, and the one-shot, one-kill will get blocked out. Scarf managing to secure that one for their team, but whether Nebulae are looking for some kind of compensation, some kind of revenge at this point, we'll have to see, as Truffy's going in deep on that weapon power Kestrel.
Yep, but they will just back off altogether, and in the end, there is really nothing much the side of Nebulae can do now. They have a very strong siege comm with the CP Black Feather, all in all, but I think their priority really should protect Truffy's. I mean, looking at Truffy's build, he is going full glass cannon at this point in time. Sorrow Blade into Tyrant's Monaco, double Tyrant's Monaco, and going into the Bone Sword, but Truffy's now.
Yeah, it looks like they are going to get jumped. Doubtfire, actually the one lowest Nebulae. Bull and Truffy's not really finding the glimmer shots they need to. There's not enough return damage coming out from the side of Nebulae, even though they have the potential to do so. You see how much Cyanogen can put out, but just doesn't have the opportunity to get in there and really show it. It does manage to steal that camp away, or secure, I should say, as it was their own in the first place to begin with. But in another 5 seconds, we will see the Kraken coming up onto the fold, and just seeing how much damage J3X Inferno can put down at the moment, I wouldn't be surprised if they try sneak one out behind the side of Nebulae.
I mean, at this point in time, they are, and they have a team comp that can take objectives relatively fast. I mean, maybe even faster as compared to the side of Nebulae, but all in all, they are very cautious in terms of how they are going into team fights, in terms of how they are playing, including the side of Nebulae, who can obviously put out so much damage, trophies at least, on those glimmer shots in which he's not finding at all. And his basic attacks, he don't really have to just rely purely on those glimmer shots to put out outrageous amount of damage. His basic attacks will hurt and will hit like a truck. And Cyanogen really has to learn to just go in and not just play like a mage with those on point. Granted, that is where your bulk of the damage is. But as a Black Feather, really you want to fight in the front line, maybe just taking out Nibim on that of Vox, or even just dive into the back lines, wait for it comes out.
Ooh, Kahlua going in deep now is going to be absolutely to clean up the kill, helping them secure trophies, and they're now following through, trying to pick up Cyanogen on Doubtfire, who's very low, manages to get hit by the Spitfire as Unlock's Blaze picks it up, and the ace going over to Nibim and the side of J3X Inferno. They're now going to be able to take a Kraken and possibly the anchor turret as well, as there's still another 7 seconds before Trophies is up. They get that tier 2 turret to start with, but they're not going to push in the minions anymore. Instead, Nibim going to go back to the Kraken to help his team, but it's basically captured already, where the Trophies is going to do an amazing one-shot, one kill. No, it doesn't look like it, and J3X Inferno already doing a great job of body blocking for that Kraken.
That one-shot, one kill, however, to land on Nibim on this Vox, but Vox will just all be well. Dante healed up by that mid-treant and will go alongside Kraken for the siege and possibly able to just end this game out. It's looking rather even. I don't want to say it's looking rather even, but it's just a reflection of deja vu of the previous match, where Nebulae was just on top of the line, on top of the foot chain, and in this game itself, we have J3X Inferno on that foot chain and be the praise at this point in time. But we do see the amount of damage that the side of Nebulae has, but they are just so hesitant into, you know, just devoting and committing into any team fights and just allowing the side of J3X Inferno hold that damage on Nibim though.
But Nibim going to get healed up with the Divine, and J3X Inferno not the unaggressive for Kraken in, and they're only going to be able to get the turret out there. They did get the second base turret though very low on HP, so it still is kind of worth for them to have that Kraken. I mean, they'll have another opportunity in a few minutes to take Kraken again, but really not making the most out of that Kraken push and providing the side of Nebulae with an opportunity for comeback, especially into the late game. I understand that Amok's plays on this Scarf and Vox, Nibim on this Vox, both very good late game heroes, but you know, anything can happen. If they're caught out in this position and Nebulae are able to pick up on those mistakes, then you know, they might be able to turn this one around. They have the damage on the side of Nebulae, they just need to utilize it. And meanwhile, for J3X Inferno, they had the objective control with that Kraken, They just needed to utilize that if they wanted to shut it out.
Oh, Doubtfire will be caught out.
Caught out on their own uses by Arcane Passage to get out there. Armored Play is going to follow through. The wait for it was used, but they're not going to be able to find Doubtfire as they managed to run away. But now that does mean that Arcane Passage is not available, and it looks like they might even catch out Truffy's here. Truffy's on the backline going down to the box, and Amoxley is going to pop that Dragon's Breath, chasing down the Black Feather, who managed to land the on point and uses the Imperial Sigil to get away. But look at this now. J3X Inferno have an easy job of pushing through back and finishing off, pushing through this tough, finishing off what Kraken had started, and it's up to Sajin to put down the damage and force away J3X Inferno, but they have too much damage they're putting down in return. They're going to be able to take the turret. Looks like they should be able to take the crystal. Sajin going to jump onto Night Bim Bim, and they manage to take him down, but Scarf, meanwhile, on that backline, unchecked and unmanned, manages to take down the crystal. And this time, J3X Inferno coming through with the win, 11-5 kills at 19 minutes 55 in.
And this is the issue, as we all can see, the amount of damage that Trophies can put